The Pittsburgh Steelers lose 33-31 to the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football. I'm Chris Carter on the Locked On Steelers podcast, and I think there's one big problem specifically that, if not fixed, could be the Achilles heel to the entire Steelers season. That's next year on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. Steelers fans, it's a rough Friday morning because the Steelers went in and lost in Cincinnati 33-31 to the Bengals in a shootout. And we're going to break down several elements of this game, from the offense to the defense, the run defense, the pass defense, everything about it. But there was one part of this defense that was assembled this year for a specific reason that needed to come through in this game, and it did not. And that was its defense when it went man coverage against the Bengals passing game, because it very rarely won. And listen, maybe they'll win other ones. Maybe the next time they play the Bengals, it will work. But that, to me, is the big question that these Steelers must answer on defense. Can this secondary hang with the big boys when they want to go man-to-man in coverage? Because that was a big reason why you swapped Jalen Ramsey or Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. It's a big reason why you went and got Darius Slay. It's why you've been trying to develop Joey Porter Jr. You wanted to have the cornerback room just to come out and say, we can line man-to-man with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison, and we can go toe-to-toe with those guys and come out on top. And they'll get us sometimes, but we'll get them back. And in this game, that did not happen nearly enough. Jamar Chase, of course, 16 catches on 23 targets for 161 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins, 6 of 10 for 96 and a touchdown. They were the entirety of the Bengals offense. And really the Bengals team. The Bengals defense didn't do anything really that spectacularly. They caught 2 interceptions. You know, that one interception shouldn't have been an interception because DK Metcalf's hand was on it while he was out of bounds. I don't know how that got missed. But the first interception, Rodgers just made a bad error there. But what drove the entire Bengals offense was really the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And it was the thing that we said going into this game, the Steelers had to limit. They didn't limit it, and I think that it's because their game plan was around, hey, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter, you're going to take these guys away. You're going to win more often than not against these guys. And you saw early on Joey Porter getting tagged with penalties, so was Jalen Ramsey. I think that they came into this game with an idea of what they wanted to do, and when the Bengals started to win with that, they didn't have a good backup plan because their plan was to cover in man and then try to switch into some zones. But Joe Flacco eats zone alive when he gets the chance. And that ended up being a nightmare scenario for this defense. And I think it poses a problem moving forward because while you will not play teams that have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins type wide receiver combos every week, you will play other teams on your schedule with a really good receiver core. The Packers don't have that next week, but Michael Pittman, if he's healthy with the Colts, could be a problem with the guys they have there. You play the Bengals again in about a month's time in November back in Pittsburgh. Romeo Odunze and DJ Moore and the guys they have with the Bears. The Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameis Williams. There's guys coming, and you got to be prepared. Because if you're not going to be able to win in man coverage against those guys, and that's a big part of what you wanted this defense to be, you got to make some adjustments. You got to switch something up here. Now, again, short week on the road in the division. We know that that's the curse of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. But to me, this was where Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin needed to have this team better, was that they needed to say, hey, this way that we're running our man coverage, forget about it. We're taking these guys away. I personally think when I look at overtime in my covering the Pittsburgh Steelers, the way that they like to approach teams with multiple receiving threats is they'll let you kind of get some yards here and there with a specific wide receiver, and they'll take away another. And the problem was in this game, they didn't take away the other wide receiver. I think that they had a plan that, like, hey, Jamar Chase will get his, but we're going to make it so that T. Higgins and Iosifas and everybody else won't eat. And if we do that and force them to live through Jamar Chase, eventually they'll make the mistake and we'll get the play. And that was the problem in this game. That never came to fruition. T. Higgins had his way. I mean, even on the Iosifas deep ball that Joe Flacco connected on, this Darius Slay is not a vertical guy. You don't want him running speed, but he was supposed to at least maintain his leverage to just stay in front of the play, and he couldn't do that. And that to me is alarming, because if other teams now see this, as they will when they look at this on tape and they prepare for the Steelers, they're going to go after this too. And a lot of the structure of the blitz makeups of everything the Steelers wanted to do was that they could trust that they could go into man coverage aggressively and win. And some of the times you do have to tip your cap to the other team. Like, for example, the last deep ball to T. Higgins, Jaylen Ramsey had great coverage. He pinned him to the sideline. He ran with him step for step. Joe Flacco just threw the perfect ball, and T. Higgins went and found it. Jaylen Ramsey, got beat there. That's okay. But there were other instances where they needed to be in better situations. And it's something that harkens back to something that I thought I saw in week 1 that I wasn't sure if it was going to continue to be a thing. And it really hadn't been a thing for about a month. But now I think it's reared its ugly head again. And I think it's that the Steelers secondary is given a lot more liberties to not have traditional coverage leverage in certain situations, because a lot of them are veteran or experienced guys, and they're trying to set up something else. They're trying to set up the mistake. They're trying to, and I noted this against the Jets, where I thought Jaylen Ramsey was letting receivers, and I think also against the Seahawks as well, but Jaylen Ramsey would let guys get in front of him, and then he played trail technique to try to jump the pass. I think that happened a lot in this game. Now, I have to go back and watch the tape. I don't think that's it, but I think if Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin are going to take this defense forward, and unless they say, hey, you know what, our guys got beat in this game, they won't get beat the next time we do this. Okay, that's betting on your boys. But I think what needs to come out of this is they need to have a different approach to how they're running man defense, especially against teams with playmakers like this on offense, because those other teams will be coming down the line. And to me, that's the biggest question for the Steelers, for Mike Tomlin, for Joey Porter, for Jalen Ramsey, for Terrell Austin, for everybody involved. You have to be able to win those types of matchups when this is a pillar that you're built on. And we'll get to the run defense in a minute too, because that's also a big problem in this. And Cam Heyward had some very strong words about this after the game, and I want to get to that. But to me, a big part of what they wanted to, how they structurally changed the defense. We talked about how this is a Blitzburg defense again. They're bringing the heat. And we got to see their blitz rate for this game. But I thought that they brought plenty of heat, and the ball was getting out quick and going to certain guys. This needed to be a game where you just said, hey, Jalen, I know you want to play off leverage, or you want to play outside leverage and work this here, but we need you to play inside leverage the entire play, jam this guy, give him a hard time, and make Joe Flacco hold on to the ball for 5-6 seconds to give our pass rush time to get home. And I just feel like the Steelers didn't do that enough. And there were a couple times they did it, and they did it well. The field goal that they held them to in the fourth quarter, where Jaylen Ramsey broke up that pass in the end zone, that was really good man coverage. That was basically what we're talking about here. Joey Porter had a couple plays like that, but it wasn't enough. And I think that there's a lot of grace given to these guys, and not a lot of grace, a lot of there's the expectation that these guys are going to be able to still play at that level where they can be given the luxury to make their own calls, where they're going to back off a guy on a certain play or play up on another play or give outside leverage here because I think I can force this. I think that there might be a time to say, if you're Terrell Austin or Mike Tomlin, saying, hey guys, we know that you think you can do this, but right now we need you to be able to do this part of the game. That's take away the slant. Like when they were running those slants, the Steelers, I thought needed to be, in man coverage. But when they were in man coverage, people were saying, oh, they're not going to man coverage because they're scared. They were going to man coverage. The problem was they were just getting flat up beat. And that's what you can't allow to happen. You be physical at the start of the play, cut off, take away the inside, force them to live on the outside, and eventually and take with that what it gives you. I think that if the Steelers had done that more, the defense might have had a better day. But that to me could be an Achilles heel moving forward if other teams see it and the Steelers don't address it. And when I say address it, I mean by like doing these things, saying, hey, we're gonna change how we run these things. We're gonna switch up the way that we go about putting on man coverage and trying to run with guys on the shorter passes and the quicker passes. That's got to be a task. Now, fortunately for the Steelers, they get 10 days rest. They get to, lick their wounds over the weekend and get ready for a big game against the Packers. And the Packers aren't a team with superb wide receiver talent, but they still have good wide receiver talent. So they'll get a chance to kind of get their stuff back together. But to me, this loss could be a sign that comes back to kill them later in the year if they do not figure out better ways to run man coverage when they want to be aggressive, when they want to take away certain guys, and not just getting abused by highly talented receivers. So I think that's a big story out of this game. But another big story is how the run game allowed 108 yards to Chase Brown on 11 carries, the most rushing yards on the season for him, and a big game for a team that was averaging 56 yards on the ground per game going into Thursday night. We got to talk about that run defense and how they need to be better. That's next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you this show is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is, of course, on October 10th. It was World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you to therapists, because life can be tough on and off the field, and behind millions of mental health journeys are therapists who showed up, listened, and helped people take a step forward. BetterHelp is shining the spotlight on those connections while also making it simple for you to find support whenever you need it. Therapy moments can be life-changing, whether it's learning to better connect with your kids, healing a relationship, or finding healthy ways to manage stress. If you've ever thought about trying therapy, this is the perfect reminder that help is out there and the right therapist can make all the difference. This World Mental Health Day, join us in celebrating the therapists who have helped millions take a step forward. If you're ready to start your own journey, BetterHelp can help you find the right therapist. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We're also brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. Not just you get to pick the more or less picks on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards, or Saquon Barkley's rushing yards, how many rushing touchdowns he gets. All you have to say is more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can start to turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly my favorite way to follow along with football. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 off lineup or in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5. Prize Picks, run your game. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue to talk about this Steelers game. And I want to reiterate this because I did the Locked On Steelers squad show with Tyler Feldman and Wayne Gandy afterwards. And, I said the sky isn't falling because at the end of the day, the Steelers are 4-2 and 1.5 games up in the division, and they still have the whole season out in front of them. But saying the sky isn't falling is not saying this loss was fine, because this loss showed a lot of weaknesses that we thought the Steelers, or at least I thought the Steelers, could be better against or had improved against. And we talked about the pass defense. We talked about the man coverage and the things there. But the other thing that was alarming was the run defense. And you look at just the raw stats, and it's disturbing when you see 11 carries by Chase Brown for 108 yards with a Bengals offensive line that is not good. And you see a Steelers defense that should have been doing better there. I mean, going into this game, the Bengals averaged 56.7 yards per carry. They were not yards per carry, yards per game. They averaged 3.1 yards per carry. Those were both dead last in the NFL. The Steelers were at least in the middle. They were 17th in rushing yards per game allowed, 13th in yards per carry allowed. And it didn't matter. The Steelers came out and they laid an egg against the run. And Cam Heyward was viscerally upset. I mean, and rightfully so. Because he's the captain of the team, and he basically said, in prior of ESPN quoted him saying this in the locker room after the game. He said, "It's not the secondary, because that's a cop out. I think the front line, we've got to control the line of scrimmage a lot better. I'm pissed off. We didn't take care of our jobs. They were last in rushing, and the way we gave it up today, that takes the cake." And he also says, We've got to stop the bleeping run. That's as simple as that. Cam Heyward's going to be a leader and take responsibility and accountability when the secondary is also definitely at fault for things, and he should. But I look at this, and I do think that part of this is it goes back to the things that they struggled with stopping the run in the first couple weeks. And I think that it's something that Cam Heyward said when I was asking him about those problems, or we were asking him about this problem, it wasn't just me, back in the early part of the season during the regular season, when he kind of noted that, like, the biggest thing the defense had to do better, the defensive line had to do better, was they had to anticipate better what offensives were trying to do, where they were trying to go. And I think early on, the Steelers certainly did. When when they got their first third down stop, I thought they stuffed the run well on the drive, and then you had the shallow cross to Jamar Chase. Juan Thornhill was all over it. I thought that was a brilliant play call. I thought that was a good sign of how things started. But the problem was it continued, and you saw the run game start to work. You saw guys missing tackles. This is a thing that the Steelers have to be better at. Bottom line, nothing else will matter if they can't stuff the run. And that stuff feeds the success in the passing game. And to me, that's where you're a little concerned here too about the Steelers is, can you step back from this, readjust, and say, okay, we have to fundamentally be better at these things to stop the run? Because I totally get the idea that, like, hey, you know what? And because when we're saying anticipation, right, we're saying when you get a certain look, they're most likely going to go in this direction, or they're most likely going to do this, or we can be prepared for that. We got to prepare for how they want to attack us here. So we're going to practice against these techniques. Those are fine. Like, those are good to have, but you also have to, I think, have general play that's just going to out physical somebody or just straight up beat somebody, regardless of what they bring to the table. And I think this defensive front can be that good. They weren't good like that in this game. And that's where I think they made the biggest mistakes, was that they were, you look at some of the third down conversions at the end of the day, it's kind of crazy. The Steelers actually had a better third down rate because on offense, they went 7 of 10 on third downs. But the Bengals offense, they go 7 of 14, and 50% on third downs is not where you want to be if you're the Steelers. When you look at the Steelers defense on third downs, on the year, they were at 40%. And so they kind of jumped up, and the Bengals also jumped up with that because on the year they were 36.8%. So they were, those were two things that the Steelers, should have had in their favor that they didn't have in this game. They were getting cooked in a lot of respects there. But again, I think it comes up with it. Mike Tomlin said this after the game. It comes up with being stronger up front, winning the trenches, winning the early downs. That's the bottom line there. You need to be able to win those. And I don't think that the Steelers won enough of those in this game, as Cam Heyward alluded to, because I still think at the end of the day, this is still a team that wants to win with its defense and occasionally with its offense. But with this defense, you're supposed to take away certain things. And that's the thing that I didn't think happened enough in this game. Now, I know I've been talking a lot about anticipation with the run defense and be in the right spots. And what I mean by that is that, there are certain things that teams do that you can prepare for, that you can get your hands up for, that you can notice certain jump in certain gaps. And the Steelers didn't do that enough tonight, both in the run game and in the pass rush. They didn't get home enough. But again, I think the run game kind of set up the pass rush because the Bengals were able to get the ball out quick a lot of times, and they were able to score that with that. So, if I'm the Steelers and I'm looking at that run defense going into this week, a big part of it is you got to get your fundamentals down to be able to win and not get pushed off the ball the way they were in this game, and get off your blocks. It's the bottom line. You got to get off your blocks. And I think that's what Cam Heyward's kind of talking about with his statement and saying they just have to do their jobs there. It's not a complex thing there. You have to find a way to absorb their blocks, take them on, expect where they're going to be going with this. And when you combine that with losing the turnover battle 2-0, and with the coverage problems they had, it's no wonder the Steelers gave up 33 points in this game. Sometimes you wonder maybe they should have given up more with the way that they played. But I still think that they have the talent to fix this problem. I don't think this is something that necessarily lingers all season, but they better figure it out, because other teams are about to copy that so fast with the way that the Bengals are trying to run and the way that the Bengals are trying to throw. Teams are going to copy that so fast, and they're going to be looking around and being like, okay, we're going to use some of these concepts because we need to take advantage of it. But yeah, again, I think that the defense, it's a big letdown. And it's a big letdown, from them and everyone involved, from the coaches to the players. There's no doubt about that. But I still do think they have the tools to get where they need to be. The question will be when they get there. I think that they can get to be a team that's competitive. When they get to play those really good teams, can they trust this defense to hold them off, to give the Steelers offense more of a time to build up a bigger lead and to hold on to that lead throughout? I think those are things that that can happen for the Steelers, but what's going to determine how good this team is if they actually do make them happen, because that's the problem right now, is that the Steelers, at least I think when I watch them right now, I think that there is potential for things to happen, and there's things that they drop that could work, but there's always a letdown. Not always, excuse me, that's hyperbole there, but there's often a letdown at the wrong moment, wrong time, and it kind of blows up the entire play. And when it comes to the run defense, I think that's definitely part of it there. There were some plays where they just lost at the point of attack, and there were certainly some questionable calls in this game. But the bottom line is, you're not supposed to let that team run on you, and you're supposed to take away Jamar Chase. And if they eat with T. Higgins, they eat with T. Higgins. But to me, that's not what happened in this one, and that's a big bad sign for the defense that they let this happen. Now, do they let this carry over? Do they let this continue? That'll be what determines how good of a team they are, because Terrell Austin said that to me. The Steelers defensive coordinator said that to me back in training camp. He was like, you can't let the snowballs, turn into avalanches, and you got to be able to bounce back. And I thought that they've bounced back a few times, but right now, to me, this defense, they need a really big bounce back against the Packers team that's going to be loaded and ready to go in 10 days. But to me, that's a big part of what's going on here right now, is the Steelers defense was supposed to stuff the run, was supposed to live in man coverage. Those two things didn't happen. They have to figure out an answer to be better in those positions. But I do think the offense deserves some flowers, because Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdown passes, was really impressive there in doing so. We're going to talk about the offense and what's sustainable with them next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, remind you, this show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the players, they sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Rougiette. Guys, if you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. It's time to meet Rougiette to go long, because that's exactly what's going to happen when you take Rougiette. You'll go long. Go long comes in. This isn't just any other ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications into one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects usually last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next week. The process is simple. Connect with the board-certified doctor 100%, and if prescribed, your treatment ships directly right to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our episode here today, breaking down the Steelers' 33-31 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. They fall to 4-2. Steelers do with a 1.5 game lead in the division. I look at this offense, and I can't help but be complimentary to Aaron Rodgers for his way to maneuver things and to work things. That man threw 4 touchdown passes, and they were all tight ends. Absolutely diabolically insane, but he makes it work. And I think that that's part of what the Steelers are going to need to figure out in this moving forward with this offense is the different ways they can win. Can they keep expanding upon them and keep teams from guessing what they're doing? That, to me, is going to be a huge part for the Steelers offense that had a very great day. What's impressive to me about this offense, and again, this was a bad defense they did it against, so let's not like hang that they're a number one offense in the NFL banner yet. Again, don't take the highs too high, don't take the lows too low. But they were able to run the ball and pass the ball pretty well in this game. The offensive line was pushing guys around. They were protecting Aaron Rodgers. And Jaylen Warren was able to eat 16 carries for 127 yards. And I know Arthur Smith was losing it because he got 4 touchdowns to tight ends in this game. I have to think that that's the most touchdown passes to tight ends in a single game in NFL history. I have not had the time to look that up. I also have to start looking at film tomorrow morning so we can start doing our film breakdowns and start to look at different things. And I'll get you our grades for the Monday episode where we do stars and skulls. There's going to be a lot of skulls for this game. But man, Pat Freiermuth showing everyone why maybe the trade Pat Freiermuth for tweets are just a little premature. Maybe he just needed some time to get the ball. DK Metcalf, I mean, the one play he should have came down with it, didn't, but ultimately still, a really good player, still doing his job there. Jaylen Warren, what he does. Jonnu Smith making the catches that he made in this game, was pretty solid. Staying alive that he did to find space for Aaron Rodgers to target him. Darnell Washington also getting that touchdown. All of those guys really delivering there, and I think that was huge for the Steelers in this game. Even Roman Wilson getting involved and getting involved in a good way. He caught 2 passes for 17 yards. One went 13 yards, one went 4 yards. One pass was just a brilliant, get him the ball quick, get behind the blitz and leap over. He jumped over guys. I think Roman Wilson might be earning some more snaps soon in the offense. Aaron Rodgers seeing the field for the most part. He did have one bad interception, but for the most part, he saw the field well, took advantage of it. The offensive line was able to hold up. And even though this isn't a win, I do see this as a growing stepping stone for the offense to get to a point where they can be a consistently good unit, because you can see the remnants there. You can see the things that they're trying to put together there. That, to me, is there's a potential there, and they're getting closer to it, but it's going to take time. And after this defense has to come together. I said this during the Locked On Steelers squad show. I do not think the sky is falling on this team. I do think there are several things that they need to correct. I do think that there are things that Mike Tomlin, Terrell Austin, especially on defense, they need to be sitting down and have hard conversations with this secondary and be like, hey, we got torched, guys. Are we going to do the same thing we did today the next time we play these guys, or are we going to try to switch it up? And to me, I think that's going to be a big pillar to whether this season succeeds or it fails if you're the Steelers, because you need to be able to do this thing that you designed yourself to be good at and to have a structure in. That, to me, is the big thing the Steelers need to be able to get moving forward. If they're able to find that rhythm, make those plays on defense and be more consistent there while the offense continues to steadily grow with all the young players it has, that can make you a formidable team moving forward. And listen, they're a formidable team right now. For as bad as this loss was, and again, this is a bad loss, a loss that you do not want to lose. You're still 4-2, 1.5 games up in the division, and you have a chance to control things, but you got to control things. And that's what we're going to talk about next week in the Locked On Steelers podcast, because to me, I'm going to look at these things. You can't let a bad game turn into a bad month, which is what happened last year when they lost to the Eagles. It just everything compounded on itself to get worse and worse and worse. So far this year, their first loss didn't do that. The second loss, we'll see what happens here. But they've got to come in with a plan that's going to win them more often than not. And if it means not being able to go into man coverage or some different kind of emphasis in man coverage, great, sign them up for it. But this team still has the potential to get, I think, to 11-6. And 11-6 right now looks pretty good, considering that means the Ravens will have had to just lose one game down the stretch, and you get them twice. So if I'm the Steelers, I go back to the drawing board about coverage. I prepare my run game a little bit better to be sharper moving forward, and I get ready for trying to keep going, hold on to this division lead throughout the stretch of the season, and then see where things go from there. But I think the offense is timing things up. I think the defense needs to learn these lessons from today, and if they do those things, they'll move forward. But we'll study more of that here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, same social media as it is everywhere. It's at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down your Pittsburgh Steelers on right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Back here Monday with our grades here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.